What's up guys, I'm Dean and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I thought I'd do another franchise ranking. I say another, I think I've only done one of these and that was ranking the Ghostbusters films if you don't count the time I ranked all of Marvel's Phase 4. Over the last week and a bit, I have watched every single Rocky and Creed film. I'd only ever seen Rocky 1 before that, so I've just binged all 9 of the films. And I really want to talk about them, because before we get into the ranking of the 9 films, which is what this video is, I had this preconceived notion about Rocky that they were just a bit naff and not great after the first film, and I don't know where I got this idea from, because it was wrong, because some of these films are so great, and most of them are good. This besides the point. We've got 9 films to rank, including Creed 3, which came out last week, directed by Michael B. Jordan. Let's talk about these 9 films. Let's get into it. In 9th place, if you're a fan of the Rocky franchise, this will be a surprise to no one. We have Rocky 5. This film's not good, and I would argue this is the only not good film in the entire franchise. I've given it 2 stars. Like, sure, there are parts of it that work. I like Rocky becoming a trainer. Those kind of elements work. I just like spending time with the character of Rocky Balboa as always, and I think this film does have a lot of the heart that the previous films do. I feel a lot of it is a necessary course correct for this series, because when you get to the 5th film in this series, there are things you have to mix up, but I don't think it goes around them in the best ways. For example, you can't have Rocky being this super rich superstar throughout these films, because it makes it a bit difficult to relate to him, so they kind of bring him down a bit in this film. But I think that is rushed and not executed very well, and I think you want tension in the relationship between him and Adrian. That's rushed and not done very well. You want him to become a trainer, but the guy, he's like, you can't have him box, but then they still want to get an end fight with Rocky that is shot so poorly and weirdly, and that also doesn't work. This isn't a good film. And, every franchise needs one bad film, and for the Rocky franchise, that's Rocky 5. In 8th place, though, is a film I really enjoy. From this point on, all these films are bangers. Rocky 3. This might be controversial. In Rocky 3 is the one where he fights Clubber Lang, played by Mr. T, and he's trained by Apollo Creed after the death of his trainer, Mickey Goldmill. This film is a lot of fun, and what the highlight for me, number one, is how they handle Mickey's death and Rocky's emotion around that, and how he kind of feels lost, and then he has that heart-to-heart with Adrian on the beach, which, phenomenal. I think what also really works is bringing Apollo Creed in as the trainer, because if you look at the previous films, you're like, oh, Apollo Creed, he works so well as the villain. He's great as an antagonist, and he works not so much better, but he works just as well supporting Rocky. And I think this, their relationship and their friendship really is the selling point of this film, and is really strong. The end fight is not very memorable in this, so it's in this spot. What can I say? Now, I'm not sure how controversial this one will be, but in 7th place we have Rocky 4, another great film. This is critically panned, but I think there's a common consensus amongst fans that we really enjoy it. This film is 30%, over 30% montage, but it does have some really strong montages. And yes, it's a bit cheesy with its political commentary, but it just keeps hitting you over the head with. But I think it's done well, personally. Ivan Drago is a phenomenal villain here. Just devoid of emotion, not giving him much backstory, I think really works in this film. When you bring it back later on, which we'll get into, you do want that background and you do want a bit more of him. But here, just having him as the machine is terrifying, and it works so well. And him killing Apollo Creed is just a phenomenal scene of just everyone rushing, going crazy, and then he goes, "If he dies, he dies." I'm sorry, that was a bad accent. And then you get Sylvester Stallone with a beard, and then training in Russia, and then I couldn't help but love the end fight. After he wins, Rocky stands up and goes, "If you can change," he stands up and goes, "If I can change, then you can change, then we can all change." And all the Russians start clapping, and the Russians are like, "We love Rocky and hate communism." It's so cheesy and so over the top, and it's such a product of its time, of this era of the Cold War, where nobody knew what was going on either side. I loved it secretly. It's cheesy and dumb, but it's fun and it's kind of really, really heartwarming. Just Sylvester Stallone writing this film for himself, where his character single-handedly ends the Cold War. You know, what more could you want? Thank you, Sly Stallone. What a legend. In 6th place, we have Rocky Balboa, which is the 6th Rocky film. This might be a bit, you know, I don't know what the common consensus on this film is. I think people are going to be unhappy I put it above Rocky 4 and 3. I loved this film. Genuinely, I thought it was incredible. Yes, it kind of the end fight isn't amazing, and like Mason Dixon might be the most forgettable antagonist in this entire series, up there with Tommy Gunn. Is his name even Mason Dixon? Let's go with that. But the emotional struggle that Rocky goes through in this film is sublime. I think his reaction to Adrian's death and him visiting the grave is really great. But what really sells this film is his relationship with Robert, his son. And I think one of my favourite scenes and my favourite speeches in any Rocky film is when he talks to his son and he's like, you're acting like a coward and you shouldn't act like that. Go visit your mum. That scene, the performance there from Sly Stallone is a touch of genius. This film gives us more Rocky Balboa as a character than I would argue any of the previous 5 Rocky films. And I think the way it does it is so excellently done and so carefully done. And the way they bring this 50-year-old back into the ring, I think is an intelligent way to do it. Because like everyone in the movie is like, yeah, this is a stupid thing, and they're addressing that. And I think that all works well. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. It's a guilty pleasure. I mean, maybe not a guilty pleasure, because I know people enjoy it. Whatever. In 5th place, we have the first Creed film in this ranking, and that is the newest one, Creed 3. This film does a lot of new things with the Rocky/Creed franchise, and I think a lot of these things are done really well. For example, I think that some things that work well is the focus on the villain, focus on the antagonist here, because Jonathan Majors as Damien Johnson, Damien something. What's his name? Damien Anderson. Jonathan Majors as Damien Anderson gets more focus than any other villain in this series, and I think the time we spend with this character and the relationship he has with Michael B. Jordan and their history adds a whole new element to this series and to these fights and the struggle behind them. And I think that is done really well. And I think Jonathan Majors is top 3 villains in the Rocky Creed franchise after Apollo Creed and Ivan Drago. Like, you can't get better than those two. And I just think the time spent and Jonathan Majors' performance is so good. And of course, Michael B. Jordan, his struggle in this film is really, really great. I think the second way these films are very different from the rest of the Rocky films is the way this final fight is shot. I think Michael B. Jordan's anime inspirations really shine through, and I think how they managed to show these fights as more of a mental battle than a physical battle really adds a whole new element to what could be done with these films moving forward. And it's such a unique take on a sports film, and I can't wait to see this idea in this mode be utilised more moving forward. The third way this is different from your average Rocky/Creed film is perhaps an obvious one, and a downside for me personally is that there's no Rocky Balboa. I'm not saying these films cannot work without Rocky Balboa, because this film was good. I really enjoyed it. I just think it misses a sense of earnestness and heart, and just like Rocky is a cheesy character, and I think the earnestness behind him and the heart and the kindness he shows to others is a real staple of these films, and it's kind of just something that kind of works in any of these scenes. And I think the fact that they didn't even really address where Rocky was is a shame. And I know there's all this behind the scenes stuff with Sly Stallone, and I don't think he's going to be coming back to the Rocky franchise, which is obviously such a shame when he created these characters. I think that does downgrade this film a little bit, just not having that warmth of character here. And not only that, they didn't really have anything to fill the void, because Duke, who was his trainer, is fine. You know, there's nothing amazing there, and I think that's fine. And I think there's nothing to fill the void left by Sly Stallone, which does downgrade this film a tad, I am afraid. But apart from that, Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, great. Like, some really, really interesting stuff here. I'm looking forward to see what he does next. Moving on, in fourth place, we have Creed 2. Or as I like to call it, Rocky 4.5. That's a joke, because this does feel like a sequel to Rocky 4, and I think that's a good thing. I think what really works here, and the best parts of this film, are the exploration of the Dragos and what they went through after losing in Rocky 4, and their mentality and what their motivations. And it kind of makes me think, now they are rumoured making like Rocky TV shows and like other things within this universe. I'm like, oh, they should have made a Drago film. They should have made a film, call it Drago. I think that would be amazing. But their story's here instead, which is fine. You know, I think the stuff we do get is great. I would have liked to see more, whatever. I think the relationship between Rocky and Adonis, I think, is really, really solid here, and one of the best parts of this film as well. And I think that final fight between Victor Drago and Adonis Creed might be the best final fight in this series. I think just Victor Drago keeps getting knocked down and he keeps getting back up, and he's not going to stop until he's dead. And I think Adonis Creed realizes this, and then Ivan Drago throws in the towel and realizes this isn't the right thing to do. I just the exploration in this film is about, well, the first film's about legacy, the third film's about brothers, this film's about father and son. And I think Adonis feeling like he has to fight this fight is great, and I think the first fight against Victor Drago, of him just being absolutely pummeled, is great too. You know, Adonis Creed is no Rocky Balboa, and I'm just saying that because Rocky Balboa is a much better fighter. I think the little hints of moments we have between Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago are really solid here as well. And like, there's stuff like, oh, Rocky doesn't have any pictures of Ivan up in his restaurant, and things like that I think are really interesting. And I think Rocky's struggle throughout this film about wanting to call his son is really great. And then the final scene we might ever get of Rocky Balboa in this franchise is him meeting his grandson and reuniting with his son. And I think it's so sweet. And I think Rocky's story really works. Adonis's story really works. But what really, really works is the Drago story. And that's the highlight of this film for me personally. Entering the top three, in third place, we have the one that started it all, Rocky. This film is so simple. It's rags to riches. It's the underdog versus Goliath. This film is just so iconic. It's rags to riches. It's David versus Goliath. Rocky Balboa is such a sweet, endearing character. It takes a while to warm to him, I think, but his relationship with Adrian here and how they get together, bit weird. Like, not aged phenomenally, but it's really sweet. Like, deep down, really sweet. And I think the fight, we don't get loads of Apollo Creed here, and that might be my biggest complaint. But the training and like when he goes off at Mickey and has a go at Mickey for not sticking up with him, and then that final fight of him just keep getting back up. This is what I mean when I say Rocky Balboa is the better fighter. That's a whole different video. It is just so excellently done, so brilliant to watch, and just so much fun. Great training montage. You know, he runs up the steps. It's iconic. Everyone knows this film, and I loved every second of it. Great stuff. In second place, we have Creed. After watching all 6 Rocky films and loving 5 of them, I was really worried going into Creed that legacy sequels are difficult to get right, because you need to balance between like continuing what people love and paying homage to the characters people love, and like keeping to those themes and sensibilities while still introducing new characters that people want to watch and like don't mind focusing on more than the original cast. And I think Creed is that balance. I think Creed perfectly finds the balance between what works about Rocky and how to move forward, because it's a modernization, definitely. Like, Adonis Creed is a much more modern character, and and what really works in this film for me is the relationship between Adonis, in the whole Creed franchise, is Adonis and Bianca. I think their relationship is a lot deeper and more explored than Rocky and Adrian. And what I was worried about this film was, because I knew it was going to be dramatic and a bit like more melodramatic than the Rocky films, if that's possible. I was worried that they'd kind of lose the earnestness and the cheesiness and that kind of tongue-in-cheek self-awareness, and I think this film has that, and in a large part thanks to Sylvester Stallone coming back. And the moment what really sold me was during the final fight when Creed gets up, and then you hear the da-da-da, da-da-da, and then at that bit I was like, this is it. This is what I want to see from this franchise. And I just think it's the perfect modernization while still keeping true to what came before. Like Sylvester Stallone's Rocky Balboa's arc in this film is so special, and just him not wanting to fight the cancer and his relationship with Adonis Creed, encouraging him to fight and teaching him how to fight, I think is so powerful. And that, like, not being the focus of the film, I think is very important as well. I think the focus of this film is the relationship between Adonis and Rocky in a lot of ways. Like, the film's about Adonis's legacy and like trying to find himself and all that, but the relationship between Adonis and Rocky is like the core of this film for me. And I think it's so sweet and it's so well done, and like it's also really great in Creed 2, but it's great here. And I think there's so many good Rocky lines as well. Like, I don't want to focus on Rocky because this film is about Adonis, and Adonis is great. But like Rocky being like, this fight is between you and yourself. There's just another guy that gets in the way. Stuff like that, I think, is really great. Just Rocky and Creed, you know, they're good buds, and I enjoy that. I had another point to make. Like, I can't remember now, but yeah, the stuff with one of the best scenes in the Rocky franchise is Rocky Balboa struggling to get up those steps and not quite being able to do it. And I think that is done so well. And it's like I think it's the best way to do the homage to that iconic scene, because you have to get to the top of those steps at some point, you know. I think, and this was the best way to do it. And I think it was so sweet and a really fun film. Adonis Creed is a great character, and I enjoy all his appearances. This might surprise people, but in first place we have Rocky 2. This film was phenomenal. I think it understood what worked about the first film, and it just dialed all of that up to 11. Oh, you really like the cheesy stuff between Rocky and Adrian. You really like all the dumb things Rocky says. Let's add in way more of that. Oh, you like Apollo Creed. Let's dial that up to 11. You love training montages. Let's improve them. That final fight in Rocky 2 is beautiful and so well done. This film is a masterpiece. I think this is close to flawless. I've given it 5 stars, as you can see. It has all the sensibilities you want from Rocky, and I think all of it is done so excellently well. The more we get of Apollo Creed here is great, and I love the back and forth between Rocky and Creed. I think their rivalry is really interesting, and Rocky not wanting to say anything bad and Creed just being a dick. I think that works great for their characters. And I think the stuff with Mickey and nobody wanting to train Rocky, I think, is fun. And the real highlight for me is the emotional struggle with Adrian when she goes into the coma, and Rocky and Mickey just sit around not doing anything, and then she wakes up and she's like, go fight, and Rocky's like and then they do the training montage, and that's all the kids running up the hill, and then it cuts to Rocky holding a baby, and then it goes back to a training montage. It's just so much fun and stupid and silly and really heartfelt and intelligent. And that final fight, like I said, between Creed and Rocky is amazing, and just this is the best Apollo Creed we get, I think. I might change my mind on that, but just what a film series. That brings us to the end of our ranking. My camera's about to die, so I should hurry this up. Please comment your Rocky ranking down below. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye.